or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers and Clippers are back in action tonight. The Lakers are in Utah with a 6-game winning streak. The Clippers are at home against Memphis at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. The Lakers and Clippers made roster moves that could have a significant impact on their season. The Lakers signed center Alex Len, a 12-year veteran, to back up Jackson Hayes. Len has been with 5 teams. Replacing the production of Anthony Davis is going to be a challenge for the Lakers. The Clippers signed 6'9" point guard Ben Simmons. Simmons was the overall number 1 pick in the 2016 NBA draft, but he's been a major disappointment the past 3 years. The Clippers are gambling that Simmons will turn his career around here in LA. The Dodgers open their spring training camp today in Phoenix. The Dodgers are trying to become the first team to win back-to-back World Series championships since the Yankees did it in 2000. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you neighbor to neighbor, bringing you resources and what you need to know. For information on fire recovery resources, recovery hubs, and available services, call 211 for the City of Los Angeles and 311 countywide. Aid distribution locations, repopulation updates, and safety rules are constantly changing. Visit the LA City and LA County websites for the latest. If you'd like to sign up for the county's free debris removal, fill out a right of entry form, or get a list of disaster recovery centers that are still active, please visit recovery.lacounty.gov or call the debris hotline at 844-347-3332. If you're vulnerable to mudslides with rain in the forecast, free sandbags are being offered. Go to lacounty.pw/sandbags to find out where to get them. Businesses who have lost their facilities due to the fires can use a regional online source to get free or discounted locations. Whether you're interested in donating or finding space, you can visit the business-to-business Space Share portal at spaceshare.lacounty.gov. Additional LA County small business support and programs can be found at opportunity.lacounty.gov. Praying, advocating, and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavisSmileyShow.com. That's thetavisSmileyShow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, a conversation with historian Calvin Schermerhorn about his new book, The Plunder of Black America, How the Racial Wealth Gap Was Made. Wealth is, of course, central to the American pursuit of happiness and is, I think, an overriding measure of well-being, yet wealth is conspicuously absent, even in 2025, from African-American households. Here's the question: why do some 3.5 million black families, have zero or negative wealth? Can you imagine that? 3.5 million African-American families right now with zero or negative wealth. The book is called The Plunder of Black America, How the Racial Wealth Gap Was Made. We'll talk about it with Calvin Schermerhorn in Hour 2. In our third Hour 2 conversations, up first as we continue to celebrate Black History Month, February, the first African-American Rockette. The Rockette, love the Rockettes. The first African-American Rockette and Tony Award-winning dancer Jennifer Jones takes us behind the velvet curtains in her new memoir, Becoming Spectacular, the Rhythm of Resilience from the first African-American Rockette. On the B-side of Hour 3.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. Okay. Perfect.
When we go to competitions, because of how we look, we get underestimated a lot of the time.
Go in front.
For most of figure skating's history, it's been predominantly white. Black figure skaters have been the exception. A very, very specific exception. There's like Debbie Thomas, there's Rory Flack, there's Soraya Bonalay. Soraya Bonalay did something no one else could do. She did that amazing backflip and landed on one skate. Even though they banned it, they were all beautiful skaters, all skaters that had to claw their way to where they landed. And it shouldn't be like that. And so with figure skating in Harlem, we've kind of opened up the sport to a wider net of people.
Award-winning filmmaker Samantha Knowles joins us to discuss Harlem Ice, her new 6-part Disney Plus documentary about black figure skaters. No better time to be talking with the first Black Rockette and about historically black figure skaters than Black History Month. So we'll do all that today in our third hour. All that said, let's commence today's show in conversation with the acclaimed journalist and longtime CNN legal commentator, New York Times perennial best-selling author, Jeffrey Toobin. Jeffrey's newest text is called The Pardon, The Politics of Presidential Mercy, which just dropped yesterday. How lucky am I to have him on the day after. Jeffrey Toobin, how are you, sir?
Tavis, good to talk to you.
It's good to hear your voice, man. Thank you for the time. Glad we got the whole hour, a whole lot to get to in this hour. Let me start with breaking news. And Jeffrey knows how this works. We'll get to the book, I promise, in just a few minutes. But you want to get Jeffrey's take on where we are in this American moment. Before I let Jeffrey loose on that question, Tulsi Gabbard, President Trump's Director of National Intelligence, just confirmed moments ago by the U.S. Senate. So the Senate has confirmed Tulsi Gabbard as, again, Director of National Intelligence, one of the more divisive cabinet candidates. And other than who's the guy in Florida who pulled out of being AG? I'm blanking on his name right quick. Vincent the name. No, Hex. Dominique, cut me out right quick. The guy who was from Florida, the former congressman, Matt Gaetz. It came to me.
Matt Gaetz. It didn't even begin with an H.
Exactly.
So you're asking the wrong guy.
No.
Matt Gaetz, right.
So other than Matt Gaetz dropping out for AG, all these other controversial Trump nominees have been sliding through. We will see what happens to Kash Patel at FBI. We will see what happens with RFK Jr. at Health and Human Services. But Tulsi Gabbard has slid through. Just confirmed now by the Senate. You saw Elon Musk yesterday. That was a bizarre moment. First of all, what he was wearing and his hat and his little boy running around the Oval Office for an official statement from the president with Musk standing next to him. That was bizarre. The future of Gaza was our topic of conversation yesterday, one of our topics. And Netanyahu and Donald Trump made it abundantly clear that if Hamas does not release these hostages by noon on Saturday, as Donald Trump said, all hell's going to break out. BB has made it clear that they will resume bombing on Saturday at 12 noon if Hamas does not release these hostages. So that's the top line of the breaking news at this hour. When we come forward, I'm going to cut Jeffrey Toobin loose for the rest of the hour. I do want to start by asking Jeffrey, broadly speaking, as I said a moment ago, his thoughts on this moment. Anywhere he wants to go, I will follow him, and then we'll jump right into his book for the rest of the hour, The Pardon, The Politics of Presidential Mercy. Delighted to have Jeffrey Toobin on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
Robinhood Gold members can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on annual retirement contributions. With Robinhood Gold, the perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive a 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold.
What you want to do, huh? KBLA Talk 1580 is thrilled to share that we have been named as a semi-finalist for the coveted American Climate Leadership Awards, honoring our climate work last year. We're also delighted to announce year 2 of our Climate Justice Crusade. This year's $2 million 12-month campaign will link and combat the relationship between climate change and poor health outcomes for African Americans and the poor. Climate inequities have taken a toll with multiple health triggers in the Black community, such as extreme heat and poor air quality, made worse by the recent wildfires. Our work to ensure climate justice and climate equity continues. In the coming weeks and months, you'll be hearing a lot more about our 2025 climate campaign. To learn more about our plans for this year and the companies and organizations supporting us, log on to our website at KBLA1580.com. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
It's KBLA Talk 1580's third annual Black History Month luncheon, and you're invited. This is year 2 of our climate justice work, and this year's $2 million 12-month campaign is all about linking and combating the relationship between climate and Black health. We already know that these wildfires will leave in their wake even greater inequities, including negative impacts on Black health, given the toxic air pollutants circulating in the air we breathe. So, as part of this year's climate campaign, we're honoring Black doctors and leaders in healthcare at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Friday, February 28th at noon. If you would like to join us, just go to our KBLA 1580 website and register for your chance to be our guest at the luncheon. We'd love to see you. And in case you haven't heard the news, KBLA Talk 1580 was just named one of the semifinalists for the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down. Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
All right, Jeffrey Toobin, let's get this party started. I want to spend the majority of this hour talking about your new book, The Pardon, The Politics of Presidential Mercy. Jeff Toobin has a unique way of dropping these books just at the right time. I've got all kind of commentary, and you've heard some of it, about Joe Biden and his pardons and what Donald Trump has done with his pardons. And here comes Jeffrey Toobin, again, always with perfect timing, with a new book called The Pardon. We'll get into that for the rest of the hour in just a moment. I don't want to color this question any more than this, Jeffrey Toobin. What is your read of this bizarre, grim American moment that we find ourselves in?
Well, I mean, we have a moment where the federal government is under the unified control of the Republican Party, and it's a Republican Party that's very different from the one you and I grew up with. Mm-hmm. I mean, you and I grew up with a Republican Party that was all about strong defense, aggressive foreign policy, pro-immigration, and this is a political party that is completely shaped in Donald Trump's image. And they are pushing with an aggressiveness that is far greater and, frankly, far more effective, at least so far, than what we saw in 2017. there's a lot that's being held up in the courts, but there's a lot that's still going to get through, and they're about to pass a budget that's going to change the nature of the federal government. A lot is happening, and there isn't much opposition that's capable that can effectively stop what's happening.
A few follow-ups on what you just said, and we'll jump into the book, The Pardon. I would add to that list, Jeffrey, of things, characteristics that used to describe the GOP, the Republican Party as we know it, the rule of law. What do you make of this bizarre 180 they've done on the rule of law? That was always their issue.
Well, obviously, I see things through the prism of the prism of pardons, because I've spent the last year thinking about pardons.
Sure.
But I mean, just imagine 1,500 people in a violent attack, not only on the individuals in the Capitol, the attack on the police officers who were trying to keep order, some of whom went on to die, but also the attack on the legitimate result of a presidential election and trying to overturn the will of the voters. If there can be ever any example of the rule of law being flouted in such an egregious way, I can't think of one. But this is the signature of the early days of the Trump administration, and I think it tells you a lot.
Yeah, because you raised it, and because you are a lawyer and a longtime, again, legal analyst for CNN, as we all know. You mentioned the courts. I'm going to come back to that right quick here. I've been reading a number of pieces and talking to a variety of people who think that we are in the early stages of a constitutional crisis, primarily born of the fact that everything that Donald Trump does with these executive orders, there's some court somewhere that invokes a stay. So we're headed toward a showdown, many believe, between the executive branch and the judicial branch. Is that putting too much on it? How do you read this commentary that we are in the early stages of a constitutional crisis in this country?
Well, I think I'm not ready to declare a constitutional crisis. I mean, people are talking about constitutional crisis like it's some sort of on-off switch that you can identify with great precision. Mm-hmm. I think the matter to keep an eye on is what's going on in the case that came out of Rhode Island, because I think that's the most important matter from a constitutional perspective. There's so many lawsuits out there. It's my job to keep up with them, but I have sympathy for ordinary Americans who are just trying to, get a sense of what's happening. But the issue in Rhode Island is really very straightforward. The judge issued an order that said the administration cannot stop spending money that Congress has appropriated. Is that, one of the basic principles of American government is that Congress controls the power of the purse. And it certainly has looked like in the early days of the administration that the executive branch is trying to overrule that. In a second order, the judge in Rhode Island said they are ignoring my initial order. And if it continues that they are that they are ignoring legitimate court orders, then I think we're in big trouble. Now, I have to give Donald Trump credit. Yesterday at that bizarre news conference that you talked about, he did say he was going to follow court orders. But there has been a lot of commentary in another direction from J.D. Vance, other things Trump has said. But that, I think, is really the issue to keep an eye on, which is the executive branch going to follow the judicial branch's determination of what's constitutional? Because that's a rule in American life that goes back to 1803 in the famous case of Marbury versus Madison, that it is the Supreme Court and the courts that decide what's constitutional in this country, not the executive or the legislative branches. And so that, to me, is really the flashpoint about whether we're in a crisis or not.
One final question based on what you said earlier, and then we'll go right into this book, The Pardon. You used the phrase, the opposition. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, what opposition? And we both had a laugh about it because it's disenfranchising politically, economically, socially, culturally, to look at where we are now regarding any real opposition against what Trump 2.0 is bringing us. What is your read of the Democrats or just the opposition writ large? Who stops this guy? Who stops this madness? If there's no real opposition.
I think Democratic politicians in Washington get maybe a measure of too much blame for not stepping up.
Mm-hmm.
We have a system where in the House of Representatives the majority controls almost everything, and the Republicans are in the majority, just barely, but they are in the majority, and in the Senate. They hold a majority, although the minority senators have a little more power.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there is just not a lot they can do. Here's a group to keep an eye on that I think most people don't think about. But it's the state attorneys general, the elected state attorney generals. There are 23 Democratic state attorneys general, and they are leading a lot of these most important lawsuits. And even though these tend to be rather obscure figures most of the time, they are going to be a very important face of the opposition in the next 2 years. Obviously, the Democrats are going to try to retake the House, maybe the Senate. But in this country, if you win an election, you get a lot of power, and that's the Democrats are suffering with that right now. And unfortunately, that's just the way our system is set up.
The book is called The Pardon, The Politics of Presidential Mercy. Now, we've discussed a few of the trending issues, politically, that is, with Jeffrey Toobin. I want to get right inside his text. So I was going through your book, reading it and preparing for our conversation, and it occurred to me that you certainly did not know that Joe Biden would kick up this brouhaha about pardons when he pardoned his son. You could not have known that was going to come. I don't recall, and I was thinking last night, and I just couldn't remember, Jeffrey will tell me, when Donald Trump first publicly said that were he elected again, he would in fact pardon those January 6th insurrectionists. My point here is that when you started working on this, you could not have known that both Joe Biden and Donald Trump would put the issue of pardons center stage in American politics, Jeffrey. Did you?
I want to take a little credit for myself on that, because I really did see this coming.
Okay.
Because Trump really did start from a pretty early stage talking about pardoning the January 6 people. I think a lot of people didn't take him seriously when he said it, but I mean it goes back to 2023 and maybe even 2022. My other thought was a little different. It was I was thinking, what if Kamala Harris wins the election?
Mm-hmm.
And because that certainly seemed like a possibility for coming down to the end. I mean, she didn't lose by much, and there would be, I thought, a lot of pressure on her to pardon Trump himself. Because if you look at the historical reputation of Gerald Ford's pardon of Richard Nixon in 1974, which is another center point of my book, in recent years, there has been a lot more sympathy for that pardon, including Ted Kennedy in 2001 gave Gerald Ford an award, and he said, I was wrong about the pardon and you were right. It helped heal the country. And there would have been pressure on Harris to try to heal the country by pardoning Trump. Obviously, we'll never know what would happen. She was cagey in answering that question during the campaign. But I knew or strongly suspected that pardon somehow would be very much on top of mind in early 2025. I obviously did not know about the Hunter Biden pardon, and I didn't know how much Trump would embrace the pardon power. But there were hints that this was all coming.
So Gerald Ford caught some hell, as you recall, when he did, in fact, pardon Richard Nixon. But as you and I were discussing earlier, our politics are dramatically different now than they were then. We were just talking about how different the GOP is from what it was just 8 years ago, say nothing of the Richard Nixon era. And so I'm trying to juxtapose the response that Gerald Ford got for pardoning Richard Nixon and what might have happened if Kamala had dared to pardon Donald Trump in this American moment, Jeffrey Toobin?
Well, we're playing out hypotheticals
Sure.
here, and then that's what journalists love to do. But the Gerald Ford became president on August 9th, 1974, and he gave a wonderful speech on that day where he issued the famous line, "Our long national nightmare is over," and there was really a tremendous rallying around of Ford. Exactly 1 month later, on September 9th, after planning in total secrecy, he pardoned Nixon, and his popularity fell 40% in 1 week. It was a politically disastrous move at the time, and frankly, I think the public was right. I do not think the pardon was a good idea. One of the things that was so interesting about writing this book is that I got into the history of the pardon power, and the pardon power is the part of our Constitution that comes most directly from the royal prerogatives of the King of England. That's the kind of power it is. In most of the powers in our Constitution, there's some check or balance. But the pardon, it can't be challenged in court. It can't be challenged by the legislature. And that's why I think pardons are so revealing about the presidents who give them, because they are completely free to do what they want. And the personalities of Gerald Ford and Richard Nixon revealed themselves in these secret negotiations, which I was able to recover for this book, just as the pardons by Joe Biden and Donald Trump reveal them much closer to today.
I want to stay on this for another 2 minutes here because I'm still fascinated by this, and I was when I got into your book. Again, we will never know what might have happened had Kamala Harris won with regard to pardoning Donald Trump. But to my mind, Jeffrey, there is no comparison between what Nixon was accused of and what Donald Trump was accused of. I mean, we're talking about state secrets, documents at Mar-a-Lago. I don't know that that's the kind of stuff that you pardon even for the sake of peace and harmony in the country.
Well, Tavis, I agree with you completely, and it was really shocking to me to see how the conventional wisdom has changed about Ford's pardon of Nixon. And there were already people, Mitt Romney in his last days in the Senate, called on Biden to pardon Trump, saying we need to heal the country, we can't have these divisions. I think it was a terrible idea. I think at the end of the day, Harris would not have done it, but don't kid yourself. There would have been a lot of pressure on her to do it, and it would have been a big issue had she been president.
Our guest is Jeffrey Toobin. His new book is called The Pardon, The Politics of Presidential Mercy. That phrase is fascinating for me, presidential mercy. I want to unpack that when we come forward. I also want to talk about the way that these pardons have become so politicized over the years. A great deal more to talk about with Jeffrey Toobin and his book, The Pardon, when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Are you 50 or older? This news is for you. The CDC now recommends you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at risk. People 50 or older are over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults 18 to 49. Just one shot can help protect you. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. That's VAXassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. The Trump administration is celebrating the release of Pennsylvania teacher Mark Fogel from a Russian prison. Fogel was arrested in 2021 for bringing medical marijuana into Russia and was classified as wrongly detained by former President Biden last year. An atmospheric river could bring heavy rain, mudslides, flooding, and road closures to California, especially in wildfire areas. Torrential rain and several feet of snow are expected. Governor Gavin Newsom announced that debris removal in the Eaton Fire burn zone has entered the second phase, with 7,400 homeowners opting in. The Army Corps of Engineers aim to finish in 30 days, though an approaching storm may cause delays. And the new Power Beats Pro 2 earbuds launched on Tuesday, featuring an endorsement from LeBron James. They offer upgraded sound quality, better battery life, and a heart rate monitor compatible with leading workout apps. I'm Bree Wood on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers and Clippers are back in action tonight. The Lakers are in Utah with a 6-game winning streak. The Clippers are at home against Memphis at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. The Lakers and Clippers made roster moves that could have a significant impact on their season. The Lakers signed center Alex Len, a 12-year veteran, to back up Jackson Hayes. Len has been with 5 teams. Replacing the production of Anthony Davis is going to be a challenge for the Lakers. The Clippers signed 6'9" point guard Ben Simmons. Simmons was the overall #1 pick in the 2016 NBA draft, but he's been a major disappointment the past 3 years. The Clippers are gambling that Simmons will turn his career around here in LA. The Dodgers open their spring training camp today in Phoenix. The Dodgers are trying to become the first team to win back-to-back World Series championships since the Yankees did it in 2000. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Jeffrey Toobin, New York Times perennial best-selling author, longtime CNN legal analyst. His new book is called The Pardon, The Politics of Presidential Mercy. Jeffrey, that phrase, presidential mercy, strikes me as interesting because I've been in a number of conversations over the last few months with a number of persons who were hoping to be pardoned by President Joe Biden, namely Jesse Jackson Jr. Comes to mind. There are others who I've spoken to who were in situations where they were hoping for a pardon by the president, pardons that many of these persons did not receive. And yet this notion of presidential mercy interests me and troubles me in part because while I'm not naive about the way our laws are structured, it seems to me that if you do the crime and you do the time, you just ought to be forgiven flat out. I don't know why the president is the person that has all the power to do that versus living in a country where, if we're talking about mercy, you do the crime, you do the time, your slate's wiped clean. How did we get to a point where the president, how did this come to be where the president has all the power to engage mercy, as I put it in air quotes?
Tavis, I often find myself in agreement with you, but I really do disagree with you on this one.
Give it to me.
I think the more options we have to limit the harmful effects of the criminal justice system, we should use them. And pardons are, and frankly, one of the reasons why the pardon power was put into the Constitution. And Alexander Hamilton talked about this in some of the Federalist Papers. He said, "Look, sometimes we are too punitive." And when I look at 150,000 people in the federal prison system, should they really all be there? I don't think so. And Barack Obama, I thought, exercised an excellent use of the clemency power. Clemency includes pardons and commutations. When he arranged for the release of about 1,500 low-level drug offenders whose sentences he thought were too long and who had shown rehabilitation in prison. I thought that kind of exercise of the pardon power was a good one, and it is the kind of power that can be used to good ends. The problem, of course, is that once you give presidents this kind of power, they use it in untoward ways. And I thought the pardon of Hunter Biden was a bad idea. I certainly thought the pardon of the 1,500 January 6 rioters were a bad idea. But the idea that presidents should have the authority to exercise mercy is a good one, and I wouldn't want to see that given up.
I was about to ask what part of what I said you disagreed with. I get it now. On balance, I guess I could agree with you that the president having the power, the capacity to exercise mercy, to forgive people is not a bad thing. I'm not disagreeing with that part. What I'm suggesting is this notion that we live in a country where people have to be forgiven by the president versus you do your crime, your slate is wiped clean. If that were the order of the day, we wouldn't need the president to have a pardon power.
Well, I'd like to see both. I mean, I'd like to see the pardon power, and I would like to see the end to punishment when people got out of prison. One of the stories I've covered for years is disenfranchisement of felons, which I think is terribly unfair and inappropriate. And you have states like Florida where still even though the voters voted to give people who are coming out of prison their voting rights back, the state legislature made it extremely difficult to do so. But so I don't see it as an either or. I'd like to see both.
Talk to me about the way in which these pardons, you raised this earlier, I want to just probe it a bit more, the way in which the pardon power has become politicized over the years.
I'm sorry, I lost you there for a second.
I said, talk to me for a moment here about the way the pardon power has become politicized over the decades.
Well, what was interesting is after the pardon of Richard Nixon in 1974, which was so controversial and so negative for Ford, presidents kind of shied away from the pardon power, using it in controversial settings for a long time. And really, there hadn't been a significant use of the pardon power since until Donald Trump became president in his first term. And in his first term, at the end, there were some of the most egregious insider deal pardons that you can imagine. He pardoned, the word that always comes up to me, that I always think of with Donald Trump, is transactional. Everything with him is, what did you do for me, and what will I perhaps do for you? He pardoned all of the people who had been prosecuted by Robert Mueller. He pardoned his daughter's father-in-law, Charles Kushner, who in this term he's named ambassador to Paris. He pardoned a bunch of Republican congressmen who had been convicted in egregious political corruption schemes, including lots of bribery. But you know what, Tavis? I'm in New York, and there's a siren going by. And when I've been on the phone with you before, you said every time you interview someone in New York, there's a siren, and I wanted to keep your streak alive. And
you have,
and it just, but fortunately, it has now passed by. So, these transactional pardons that Trump did in his first term, not this term, his first term, I think, politicized the process again in a way that really is too bad.
Yeah, I want to say something here now, Jeffrey, that may be tongue in cheek to some, but there is some real angst behind the comment that I want to make now as I lead in to asking you a question about these preemptive pardons that Joe Biden offered to certain people, including his own family members, before he left the White House. I did not realize until Joe Biden did this, until this conversation started to gestate, I didn't realize there was such a thing as a preemptive pardon. I never knew, and I've been covering politics for most of my career. I had no idea that there was such a thing as a preemptive pardon, number one. When I discovered that there was, and that Joe Biden was going to use a preemptive pardon for his family members and other associates, I said to some friends of mine over dinner one night, half jokingly but half seriously, that if I had known that there was something called a preemptive pardon, then every Negro born in this country, given the way that this country has maltreated black people historically, and given the way that black people are still suspect, black men in particular, but even black women, suspect to being profiled for walking while black and breathing while black and just being black, for the ways that we continue to be maltreated, every black person at birth ought to be given a preemptive pardon. We know that the system is going to come for you. We know that because of the melanin in your skin, you're going to be put upon. You're going to be cast aside. You're going to be looked at funny. We know the way this country treats black people. And we know the system ultimately is going to come for you. So if I had known that there were things like preemptive pardons, I would have said years ago that every black person at birth ought to be given a preemptive pardon. That's my way of getting into a conversation with Jeffrey Toobin when we come forward about where this notion of preemptive pardon came from. I'd never heard of it. Had you? We'll talk about it when we come forward with Jeffrey Toobin on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking.
That's what we do around here.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
This is an ad by BetterHelp Online Therapy. When it comes to relationships, we often hear about the red flags we should avoid, but it's just as important to focus on the green flags. Think about how you want a relationship to feel, one where your boundaries are respected and you're encouraged to be your best self. If you're not sure what that looks like, therapy can help you identify those qualities so you can embody the green flag energy yourself and find it in others. Because whether you're dating, married, or building a friendship, it's time to form relationships that love you back. BetterHelp connects you to a diverse network of over 30,000 therapists worldwide with expertise in a wide range of issues, from depression and anxiety to work and relationships. It's 100% online and sign-up only takes a few minutes. Find your green flag energy with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/ABC Radio today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ABC Radio.
They can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips, and I am a revolutionary.
On Saturday, February 22nd, you are invited to A Night with the Panthers, a special fundraiser dedicated to supporting Black Panther veterans who now require assistance with essential needs such as medicine, food, and housing. These Black Panther veterans championed human rights, fed the hungry, educated the community, and stood as powerful symbols of resistance and resilience. Despite their incredible sacrifices, loving and serving the people did not come with retirement plans or financial security. So, now it's our time to honor their legacy and ensure that they are cared for with the dignity they deserve. You can help by attending and supporting A Night with the Panthers, Saturday, February 22nd, 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Project 43 Team Post Center, 6841 Crenshaw Boulevard, Los Angeles. For more information, contact Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. That's Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
He's a paradigm pioneer.
And the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley and Jeffrey Toobin. His new book is called The Pardon, The Politics of Presidential Mercy. So, Jeffrey, that's my point of view, and I'm sticking with it. We know how the system maltreats black people. You mentioned earlier all those persons who are in our criminal justice system incarcerated. We know the way the death penalty is disproportionately applied toward black people. I can't help you on the second and third mistake you make, but if I had my way, every black person at birth would be given one presidential pardon. Make it count. You're gonna be forgiven. You're gonna get presidential mercy for one thing that you do. But where did this notion of preemptive pardons seriously come from, Jeff Toobin?
Well, it actually started with the pardon of Richard Nixon. That was the first open-ended pardon. Mm-hmm. I mean, usually, previously pardons had been, John Doe was sentenced to 3 years for bank robbery. I give you a pardon for your sentence to bank robbery. Mm-hmm. What the pardon to Ford's pardon of Nixon said, I pardon Richard Nixon for all crimes he may have committed from January of 1969 to August of 1974 for his entire presidency. And the next open-ended pardon, preemptive pardon, as you put it, was Hunter Biden, where he was not just pardoned for the two sets of crimes he was convicted of, the gun charge in Delaware and the tax case in California. He made sure in the pardon that the Trump administration couldn't charge him for anything else. Mm-hmm. And, I think that is that's really a dubious practice because, you don't know what crime someone committed. And to say that every crime is off limits, I think is yet another reason why the Hunter Biden pardon was a bad idea.
As you look back on it, how did Gerald Ford get away with that? We know that prior to Gerald Ford, presidents had pardon power. We didn't know prior to Gerald Ford they had preemptive power. How did he sneak away? How did he get away with that?
Well, the question is, did he get away with it? On the day he issued the pardon, his popularity dropped 40%. And many people believe that he lost the next election to Jimmy Carter largely because of the pardon. So, there certainly was political accountability for that pardon. But what makes the pardon such a volatile power is that there is no check. How outrageous is it that, I don't have to tell you how violent criminals are treated in this system. And the 1,500 people, including those who beat cops with pipes and sprayed them with pepper spray and bear spray, they get a complete free ride from Donald Trump. It's just, I think it's important to hold on to your sense of outrage, just because, there's always so much news coming down the pike. I just think it's a deeply, deeply troubling situation.
There's no question that we've entered into a new age in which the presidential pardon power is deployed out of self-interest. It provides political cover and legal protection for intimates, and it rewards loyalty. We've already seen that. In my remaining moments with Jeffrey Toobin, I am curious as to his thoughts on where the pardon power goes in the months and years to come. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Kadeen and Deval Ellis for P&G Good Every Day.
Babe, guess what? We can save big on all our favorite P&G brands like Tide, Cascade, and Febreze. Plus, support great causes every day.
Wait, hold up. You telling me we can save money and feel good about it? How?
Well, remember how Granny and Big Mama used to save money by cutting those coupons out of Sunday papers? Now we just go to pggoodeveryday.com, sign up for P&G's free rewards program, and get exclusive coupons.
Okay, so we can get VIP status and save money.
Exactly. We stock up on the P&G products so you, the boys, and I are good every day, just like our folks did for us.
Well, you better go visit pggoodeveryday.com right now because you got to go buy some detergent and toothpaste and toilet paper.
Me?
Yeah, you. And with all that extra cash, I got to go buy these new sneakers.
It's okay, funny man. You got jokes. Boy, focus on these savings first.
Visit pggoodeveryday.com.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Jeffrey Toobin. His new book is called The Pardon, The Politics of Presidential Mercy. We've talked about the history of the pardon. Jeffrey Toobin, what say you about the future of the presidential pardon power?
More of the same with Donald Trump. Even after the 1,500 pardons to the January 6 people, he pardoned people who had violated the rights of women trying to get abortions. He just pardoned Rod Blagojevich, the corrupt former governor of Illinois. He's a transactional man, and he realizes the pardon is a gift that he can give his allies, and I see him doing it not just at the end of this current term, but all throughout as a reward for the people who are on his side.
It's hard to know how history, Jeff Toobin, is going to regard this particular moment. But I wonder if in the years to come it will remain the case that Gerald Ford's pardon of Richard Nixon is the most controversial, or whether Donald Trump will steal that honor as well.
He may have stolen it already with the 1,500 pardons to the January 6 people. I mean, it's too new to say what history is going to say. But when you want to talk about outrage and unjust and undeserving and dangerous, I mean, by the way, several of these people have already reoffended in various ways. So I think Donald Trump's going to give Gerald Ford a run for his money already, and may do the same in future pardons as well.
And even beyond Donald Trump, if we can see that far, is it your view finally here that the presidential pardon power will remain, how might I put this, a healing gesture, or whether or not it will be used even more so, or for legal protection of friends, intimates, and a way to reward loyalty?
The answer to that question depends on one thing: who gets elected president.
Yeah.
It's been used in different ways by different presidents, and I suspect that will continue to be the case on into the future.
Everything Jeffrey Toobin writes becomes a New York Times bestseller. He's got the Midas touch in that regard. He's done it again. It's called The Pardon, The Politics of Presidential Mercy. It is the latest from Jeffrey Toobin. Jeffrey, congrats on the book, man. Thanks for the conversation as always. I wish you nothing but the best, my friend.
Thank you, my friend.
Good to have you on. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. The Trump administration is celebrating the release of Pennsylvania teacher Mark Fogel from a Russian prison. Fogel was arrested in 2021 for bringing medical marijuana into Russia and was classified as wrongly detained by former President Biden last year. An atmospheric river could bring heavy rain, mudslides, flooding, and road closures to California, especially in wildfire areas. Torrential rain and several feet of snow are expected. Governor Gavin Newsom announced that debris removal in the Eaton Fire burn zone has entered the second phase, with 7,400 homeowners opting in. The Army Corps of Engineers aim to finish in 30 days, though an approaching storm may cause delays. And the new Power Beats Pro 2 earbuds launched on Tuesday, featuring an endorsement from
at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.